Hi, I'm Trent with Columbus Epoxy, and we are here on another project. The main focus on this video is going to be just kind of showcasing our cove base that's going to be integrated with the floor as part of this project. The purpose of this floor being installed is to really contain this area, to have it watertight, which is the biggest reason we're installing that cove base. And you can also kind of see some other areas around where they've added some curb work as well, just to make sure that they are staying compliant and that we are, again, just keeping everything contained and safe inside of this area. As part of the project as well, we're going to be adding some slip resistance. So once we get to the coating part of this process, we're going to be adding a full broadcast of silica sand. It's going to be like a 20-40 mesh silica sand, so it does have a little bit higher level compared to other finer grits that you can use to provide really good traction. So if you're working in this area, just with the water and other material that's going to be on the floor, it's going to really give you a nice anti-slip surface so that you don't have any harmful falls and things like that. So we've already gone around and taped up all the edges just to kind of mark out the area where we're going to be coving. Whenever you go to install your cove base, you want to make sure that you've got your height set right. The most common heights are going to be 4 and 6 inches. You can also go up to 8 inches. What we did is we went around with a Sharpie. We took a 6-inch cove trowel and used that as our marker to go around and mark the height. And then we went around with our tape just to kind of really set that as our marker so we know where our stopping point's going to be. There's a couple other things that you can do to stop that transition on the cove base. Guys use cove strip, and those can be peel or stick, and then the metal ones normally are, you'll take like a glue gun and glue that to the wall. But for this project, we're actually going to be trying to zero this out, so which is why we're using the tape as our stopping point. We've kind of got all the areas just vacked and cleaned for where we're going to be coving here today. So here in a little bit, we're going to be mixing up that cove material, and then we'll go ahead and start applying our Epoxy Cove mortar. We'll go ahead and start troweling that up on the wall and getting that set and finished so that when we come back in tomorrow, we'll be ready to prime and start integrating that cove base with the floor. So here's the material that we're going to be installing here. So you got your hardener, which is pretty normal. What is different is you have the resin, and I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it's extremely thick, and it's nice to have your resin thicker. And the reason that is just because if you go to put like a normal epoxy up on the wall, it's just going to fall right down and it won't hang really well. So having that resin thicker is going to help that to stick and hang a lot better when we go to put the cove up. And then we have our bucket mixer here. This is going to be generally the easiest way to mix this type of material. You can also use kind of like a mud drill or like a mortar mixing drill that's got a beefier motor. You don't want to use a regular drill to mix this stuff because it will definitely burn up your drill very quickly because it is extremely thick. The ratio for your cove base generally is about 3 quarts to a 50-pound bag of sand. So we're going to go ahead and mix that up here, and then we'll go ahead and put it up on the wall and get the project started. So you can see the guys are here moving. Derek is going around, he's priming ahead. And the biggest reason that you want to prime ahead is you've got to kind of wet the surface before you put up your cove mortar, because otherwise it just won't adhere very well. And it also, you know, when you've got a dry surface, that material is going to want to fall off the wall. So when you prime the wall, that's going to help it to stick, and it's just going to make it a lot easier when you're troweling so that material is hanging really well. One thing I want to note is that where he's primed, he's taken it out on the floor a little bit. Take it out maybe an inch. You can take it out a little further, like 2 inches. So that when they put the cove mortar down, because your radius is going to come out on the floor a little bit, you want to make sure you got primer on the floor as well, so that that bottom of that radius can stick as well as, you know, to the wall here. And then Chris is going around behind Derek as he's priming and putting the material up on the wall. He's just kind of getting a base layer. And then Ethan's going around with a actual cove trowel and forming the trowel and doing the finish work. When you're running your cove trowel, you want to have it hitting the wall evenly from top to bottom. And then as you move it down, you want to have just a slight angle on it so that you can close that surface. And then you'll see him spray solvent on his trowel every once in a while. That's denatured alcohol. You can use acetone, xylene as well. And that helps the material to close better so that it's not sticking to the trowel and it can slide over the material better. Once we get that done, we'll go around with the brush just to kind of fine tune everything. And then once we get finished, we'll let the material cure up for the day. We'll do a little more fine tune touch up work when we come in the morning, and then we'll get that all prepped and ready before we go to prime the rest of the floor here. What I'm gonna do now is just go around. I just have my bucket of solvent here. Again, it's just denatured alcohol. We'll go around with the chip brush. I'm gonna dip that brush in the solvent, and then I will lightly go over the surface. And the objective with this is just try to smooth out little dents and maybe little trowel marks that might be left over from the finished trowel. When I go over it, you're not really looking to put a lot of pressure. You're just kind of keeping the brush really light, and it doesn't take a lot of pressure to knock that stuff down, and you're just going over it a little bit to just, again, try to smooth out everything. Hey, so we're back here on day 2. We left off yesterday after we finished the cove base. So the first thing that we're gonna do when we come in today, we went in with concrete rubbing stones, went around and just knocked down any little boogers that might be hanging up on the cove. So now that that's done, we finished up our prep work as well. We got everything thoroughly vacuumed here. So now the guys are going around and we are laying our first top coat over all the verticals, the curb work and the cove. We are using a chemical resistant epoxy on these, which is going to be our Novalac. We're going around trying to get that sealed as well as we can. Your cove base and curb work, a lot of times that stuff's extremely porous. So we're not going to get it covered 100% on this pass. We still have to go back and coat it again. Whenever you've got a mortar, that's going to be extremely porous until you get a couple coats on and get it sealed really well. So again, we're just priming today and then we'll come back and we'll get another coat on it as part of the process. So we're back here on day 3. First thing we did when we came in, we went around with a buffer with some sanding screen under the bottom of that. We normally like to use about an 80 grit. Sometimes you can go a little coarser, like a 60 grit sanding screen. And really the biggest reason that we did that before we're getting ready to coat here, we intercoat adhesion because you're getting mechanical prep as well. So you're going to get a mechanical bond, but we are within the recoat window. So it's still going to get the chemical bond as well. Bigger reason that we did is just to knock down boogers and things like that. So now the guys are going around, they're patching. We're going to fine tune everything, little pinholes that we might see, areas where bolts are, anywhere the crack might have sunk in from previous patchwork. So we're going ahead and addressing all that. Once we have everything ready, start applying our base coat here. We're going to be using a Novalac epoxy base coat because again, our priority on this job is not only to contain everything, but to make it more chemical resistant. And then we're going to be incorporating that silica sand into the base coat today to give higher level of traction. And then when we come in tomorrow, we're going to lay our final seal coat on those walls and get those sealed up really well tomorrow. We're just going to continue to get everything prepped and ready here, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the application of the floor coating. So we're back here on day 4. This is going to be really the final day for the main floor area here. You can kind of see in the background where we're starting to put some traffic yellow on the curbs. We are doing that so that they don't pose a tripping hazard. But the first thing that we did when we came in today, we got all the excess sand swept up, vacuumed thoroughly. And once we have all that done, we're going to go ahead and apply our final, we call it a grout coat or a seal coat over the existing floor that I'm standing on here, just to get everything sealed up. And that will really, again, just tighten up the surface, get it sealed, and that we'll get that finished up. Just to recap over the whole project, and the main point of this video was to kind of showcase the cove base, but also the main purpose of doing all this is to create a watertight surface for this area because of how the customer is going to be using this space. And then we also incorporated a higher level of chemical resistance with our epoxy. We used a Novalac epoxy. We also incorporated a silica sand into the base coat that is going to add plenty of slip resistance for a very wet environment. If you have a project similar to this that you want to have us consult with you on, find a solution that's going to be right for what you need. We work with all kinds of different facility owners, different types of businesses that are using their spaces differently. We work with areas that are receiving a lot of abuse, areas that are extremely wet from grease, oil. We install all kinds of different levels of chemical resistance up to, very high concentrated caustic chemicals. We work with containment barriers. If you have questions about that, please reach out to us. We're happy to answer those questions. And if you are looking to tackle a project like this as well, we also supply the materials that you'll need as well. Feel free to reach out to us. Again, I am Trent with Columbus Epoxy Flooring. Thanks for checking out this video, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one.